I'm soaring, friends. I am Vitaly Ports. Ukraine has become conceited of a massive attack by the Russian army. Kiev is at the epicenter of the attack. Russians, you arrested your missiles and drones for strikes in the Kiev region, Kharkiv region, Odessa region, Sumy region. As a result of the attack, they bent to send a drink to the birth and relatives of the deceased. The seal of the attack suffered. We are bashing these attacks, knocking out the Russian political roots for the offensive period of the Russian-Ukrainian war, with a well-thought-out brutal plan. The Russian armies are not behind the territory of Ukraine. Predictably, the President of Russia has a fierce 2020 other hand, having so-called a special operation. The Russian army has not procured enough for hiring along the administrative cordons of Donetsk and Luhansk region of Ukraine. Independence. Calling Putin those Ukrainian regions before the annexation. From a year before the annex to Kherson and Zaporizhzhia region. And again, the Russian army was given the task of entering the administrative cordons of the workshop of the Ukrainian regions. The same for hands came with a cob of guilt. Russians are waking up for everything, and the pace of their army is Putin. And strikes on the mayor's territory are compensation for the army's failures. A friend's adoration when Ukraine enters the territory that is not suitable for demonstration. When the Kalishny Radian republics are still operas. Russia produces 3 times to the point that Ukraine renders operas, will visit their prospects, and on Maybutna. I also award you the Russian so-called titles of integration, with you for Ukraine and Ukrainians. And with such a rank, Putin wants the ruin of our land for actually easing Russia's position on the post-Radian stretch. We can still, as a result, lay out the collapse of the imperial stretch itself. I am the Russian Federation, controlling the collapse of the Rudinsky Union, in 1993 kind. And in our eyes, the say stretched out, indeed, starting high and many cracks. Third, you are important directly to the plan reserves Ukraine on the enemies of the Dnieper. On the territories themselves, they will not yet be given up to the CX and PIVD of Ukraine. In order to demonstrate bags in the region with such a rank, Rizna Ukraine. There are only sweets and warmth on the territory, and the Insha territory is overestimated, abandoned, and not needed. Putin will go with the bags of regions on the yaks for 3 Orient pro-Russian forces from the political of our Ukraine. Will be counselors, will take out the situation for the ages, not of the Russian occupiers, but of the Ukrainian Uriat. More gates for conflicts on the podium. Fourth, often on those ambit plan, so that I resettled Ukrainians to her from the Exodus and the pub of Ukraine. To the center and beyond Ukraine, and from the center and beyond Ukraine to neighboring Europe. Putin, who respects the territory of Ukraine in Zagoli, will become frequent in Russia, and he needs that I am less loyal to her. Then the population was overestimated on the lands. Yaki is going to be seen as a Hromadian of the powerful Ukraine. I am no longer a one-time bulo in bags between the Russian and Ukrainian people. The virus of democracy and the violation of its rights is absolutely useless to it in its territories. I will continue for a friend as part of the plan to expel Putin from the sidelines. and serious problems in the bags of Ukraine with neighboring Ukraine and the people. We have already become up to Ukrainian refugees in Europe to change and are absolutely not savvy on the faces. And so the federal chancellor is not a sword to the Ukrainian president, that is, the streams of the move of the powerful Hromadians, to the values of Ivica to the territory, not that the Europeans are already being met by Ukrainian refugees. With all the enthusiasm removed, I am in 2020 another lesson. Well, although the fact is that both richly Ukrainians respected prices for a long time, and richly Europeans respected prices for a long time. Realistic understanding that we have entered into the found fault with the hour of a friend and a light, as if its continuation is rich in the niche of wine in Europe. There was no such understanding, not here in Ukraine, not in the West. Overgrown and strayed from the drive of the fact that the refugees have become European, and povy with skin rock, and such a rank. But millions of people will be ticking heat and light domineering houses. Can roll out discord among Europeans and political actions of those forces on which Putin is betting from the bottom. As a result of his guilt, Ukraine will become the political hubbub of Europe. As for the collapse of Ukraine, the goal is less gatherings on the road to Russian geopolitical success. And Putin and the Ukrainians are still in the refugee camp to split up their help, and the view that helps the electoral success of the far-right pro-Russian and ultra-left pro-Russian political forces. For Sabon to Warsaw. I'm not going to shit about Budapest anymore. So it's not just a tax. For the sake of the carelessness of the Russian Federation, such a skin attack is perceived by me to the road to success. Haina, the whole road is in the bodies of the poor Ukrainian population. The president of Russia is politically Ukraine. And chauvinistically poured on Tilky, breathing, I will continue. And we can smell the cola of Western politicians. Even the sanctioning potential of their squeeze is scooped out. Yaxia, more recently said the sovereign sect, obtained in the state in Marco Ruby. Tilky on Russian adoration bombard in Bivity from such a rank, Putin can still guide success, and involuntarily Ukraine. And Nalaka on Europe close to stand with an outstretched hand. If you need a Tilka, you will still suffer a sprat of heavy for Moscow rocky and smart on the layer. Within the framework of economical stability and chauvinistic greed. Well, in such situations, Tesh needs those plans of the Russian government to be fragmented. Ludiger's plans ended with the same angry quarrel, Yaki Blitzkrieg 2020 another. Diakuyu? Overstated on the topic of the channel, subscribe to it. Once again we are through the pub. Childbirth and the loved ones of the victims of today's attack. To all who, suffering in mind, strike.